Called Jami-Lee Ross.
Mr Speaker, to the 90,000 people who will benefit from the changes that this government is making to Kiwisaver, they heard it here today from the Labour Party. They think 90,000 people benefiting from government changes to Kiwisaver is simply a gimmick. That is what Grant Robertson described this as this afternoon. He said it was simply a gimmick. Well, Mr Speaker, I say to those 90,000 people over the next 5 years that will be benefiting from the ability to withdraw more money from Kiwisaver to use as a deposit to get themselves into a home. I say this government cares about home ownership in this country, and Mr Speaker, the Labour Party does not. The Labour Party thinks trying to help first home buyers is a gimmick. The Labour Party thinks this will do nothing to help them. Mr Speaker, yet again, they are absolutely wrong. Mr Speaker, we've heard the speeches from Mr Robertson. We've heard the speeches from Mr Twyford. Mr Speaker, they do not support first home buyers like this government does. I'm pleased to be speaking on this bill. I'm pleased to be speaking on a bill which will actually, Mr Speaker, enable more people to access homes at an affordable rate. Mr Speaker, there are a large number of challenges that we face when it comes to housing, particularly in Auckland, but it's also a nationwide issue. And Mr Speaker, I believe this government does have a set of policies which is going a long way towards helping those who wish to get a house. Mr Speaker, let's talk first about the fact that we need to have more houses built in New Zealand. I've been listening to speeches. It happens week after week, speeches from the Labour Party, where they downplay and they don't acknowledge the significant increase in construction that's taking place in this country. Mr Speaker, if you want to get more people into houses, more people owning houses in this country, we simply have to be building more houses. But Mr Speaker, the building of new houses doesn't take place overnight, and Mr Speaker, the building of new houses is not something I would ever trust any government, particularly a Labour government, to be involved in and building themselves. Mr Speaker, the best place for houses to be built in this country is by the private sector. The role for government to play is to put in place the policies that enable the private sector to get on and build. The policies government also has to be involved in is ensuring there's an ability for people to access capital, access deposits so they can borrow to build more homes. Now, Mr Speaker, I get sick and tired, just like every member of the House does, get sick and tired of hearing the Labour Party talking about housing affordability. Mr Speaker, I remember going to the banks and asking for a mortgage in the mid to late 2000s when they were in office. I remember the mortgage rates being close to 11%. When I was purchasing a house in 2008, the mortgage rate offered by banks under economic settings by that party was almost 11%. Mr Speaker, interest rates are considerably lower right now because of the economic policies that we're pursuing. Mr Speaker, if they want to talk about housing affordability, then I'd like them to address the fact that under their economic settings, under their watch, homeowners were paying almost twice the amount that they are for borrowings. And Mr Speaker, first home buyers are the ones that are impacted the most when it comes to interest rates. Now, another part about housing affordability that we need to consider in this House is the compliance costs that are put on those wishing to purchase houses and those wishing to develop houses. I heard some sounds coming from the New Zealand First Quarter. They're out there at the moment trying to convince New Zealanders that they supposedly have had an epiphany and they now support RMA reform. Mr Speaker, we don't believe it. They don't believe it either. They do not support RMA reform that would be meaningful and that would lead to...
Point of order, Tracy Martin.
Sir, is the RMA inside this bill?
No, look, this is a wide... This is a debate where the RMA has been mentioned before, so long as the member doesn't concentrate on it and make an issue out of it, but it has been mentioned. I'm allowing it to happen. Jami-Lee Ross.
I'm sorry, Mrs Martin, I know these issues are a bit sensitive for New Zealand First. I know they can't handle some of the truth sometime, but the fact of the matter is, along with a number of changes that we have on housing, including Kiwisaver changes, including special housing areas, look, Dennis, just go back to supporting marijuana. Go back to supporting marijuana, Dennis. I know that's what the party's new policy is. Mr Speaker...
Point of order. Dennis O'Rourke, Point of order, Dennis O'Rourke.
Yes, there are actually 2 points. First of all, the member cannot refer to me or any member just by a Christian name. And secondly, I take offence at being told that I support the legalisation of marijuana when I've never ever said any such thing.
I hear what the member says. I'll ask the member to withdraw that comment and then proceed with the debate.
Sorry, what am I withdrawing?
They withdraw the comment relating to marijuana.
I withdraw it, Mr.
Yes.
Speaker.
Jami-Lee Ross.
Mr. Speaker, I will refer to Dennis O'Rourke, list Member of Parliament from Christchurch with 2 letterboxes, by the correct name if he wishes. But, Mr. Speaker, the fact that I referred to something he didn't like, I think is something we should consider because, you know, their leader's been out there saying some things on the hustings.
Point of order, the Honourable Clayton Cosgrave.
Speaker, it is a standing order that members can't challenge your ruling. You've ruled, he's withdrawn, he's now referring back to it.
No, he's not mentioning, he hasn't mentioned the word again, and I'll ask the debate to come back into focus here, but no, he hasn't mentioned the word that I asked him to withdraw, so that's in order. Jami-Lee Ross, now just focus on the last 4 minutes on what the bill's about. Jami-Lee Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sorry that I get the members of the opposition so excited. They get so excited because they don't like hearing about the strident steps that we are taking as a government to address housing affordability for New Zealand. This bill addresses one of a number of steps we are taking. And now I would like to talk a bit more about housing and the fact that we need to build more housing because, Mr. Speaker, we hear the Labour Party, whenever they talk about bills like this, whenever they talk about housing, they don't acknowledge the fact that building is on the increase in this country. Mr. Speaker, residential construction is up 21% in the last year. 24,000 consents were issued in the last year, the highest number since 2008. Mr. Speaker, if they really want to support first home buyers, if they really want to support building more houses, then they should get on board with the government's program. They should be supporting the moves we're taking to build more houses because, Mr. Speaker, it is having an impact. If Phil Twyford ever wants to see the impacts of residential construction and policies we're pursuing, I invite him to come out to the Botany electorate because if one wants to see residential construction taking off in a particular part of Auckland, the Botany electorate, as it merges into the Hunua electorate, is the one place where construction is absolutely booming. I'm looking forward to the Deputy Prime Minister coming to my electorate to help do another sod turning in my electorate on some more development next month. Mr. Speaker, it is going ahead and it's happening fast. The special housing area policies that we have put in place is leading to more construction. In my electorate, Mr. Speaker, the Flatbush strategic area is going to be home to almost 5,000 new houses under that policy. Clayton Cosgrove doesn't like the sound of it. Phil Twyford doesn't like the sound of it. But, Mr. Speaker, more Kiwis are getting access to homes under this government because we are pursuing policies that will lead to more houses being built, will lead to more Kiwis getting access to lower mortgage lending rates, will lead to more Kiwis getting deposits together so they can afford more houses. And, Mr. Speaker, overall New Zealanders are going to be better off. Mr. Speaker, this government doesn't shirk away from the important decisions that need to be made around housing. Mr. Speaker, this government supports RMA reform. Mr. Speaker, this government supports policies that allows developers to get out and build. Mr. Speaker, this government supports New Zealanders to get into homes. And Mr. Dennis O'Rourke, list Member of Parliament from Christchurch with 2 letterboxes, come on board with RMA reform. You know he wants to. You know he wants to. His leader's selling the song out there up north, but, Mr. Speaker, they don't actually believe that it's going to happen. Mr. Speaker, let's just all calmly remember the people that will benefit from this are New Zealanders, young New Zealanders. Mr. Speaker, this is not a gimmick. Mr. Speaker, this is not something that goes nowhere. Grant Robertson was wrong when he used those terms. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, I think he was rather insulting to people to say that government changing policies to allow more New Zealanders to access their own funds, to be able to put it into a deposit so they can live that Kiwi dream of owning a home. Mr. Speaker, to denigrate something like that, as Mr. Robertson done, was appalling. Mr. Speaker, New Zealanders want to own their own home. We are putting in place policies to help them to do that. I suggest, Mr. Speaker, to the Labour Party that they start to realise what Kiwis want. They start to realise that government building homes is not the way to do it. It's actually, Mr Speaker, supporting the community, supporting New Zealanders, supporting residential construction developers out there to be able to do it. Mr Speaker, we are putting in place those policies. I'm proud to stand on this side of the House to say we are helping young New Zealanders, we are helping first home buyers. They will see the results long term. They will be better off because of the settings and the economic policies we're pursuing. Mr Speaker, I do commend this bill to the House.